Hello and welcome to another episode of The Advantage. I am your host, Michael Fiddle. Today is Wednesday, April 17th, and on today's podcast, we are going to review the remaining play-in games and go over some series bets, some player props, and some game ones that we already have pricing on. Notice I say we because I am joined by the same two professional gamblers that are in my circle, a full-time poker player, Drew Johnson, and Mike Levy, who also is a full-time sports bettor like myself. So we are going to break down this slate, go over what we're seeing, but we're going to start the show off talking about Jontay Porter's lifetime ban. This is a gambling topic. This is one of the biggest gambling sports stories in recent history, maybe in the history of sports. So we have to break it down, give some thoughts, all that and more. Let's get it popping.
I'm the type to get shit done. You the type to observe. March Madness on my speakers, but today's November 23rd. Got something loud in the blunt, yeah. I do and say what I want, yeah. Probably somewhere sunny and tan. Foreign women in the sun, yeah. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. Got my brothers with me. Got my brothers with me and my mama's healthy. That's all that I need.
All right, everybody, welcome in. Before we get started, let me remind everyone to please rate, review, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are listening to sign up for the fiddlespicks.substack.com free gambling newsletter, and to check out the Fantasy Basketball International website if you need any fantasy resources. I can't imagine anyone's playing fantasy through the NBA playoffs, so we will have loads of betting content through it all. We got to start off the top with the Jontay Porter stuff, fellas. Welcome in, Drew. Welcome in, Mike. Welcome back. I'm going to get right into it and just say lifetime ban is huge fucking news. And Adam Silver called it a cardinal sin, to which the first wave of reactions that I saw was like getting mad at Adam Silver for his word choice over using the term cardinal sin and being like, well, Miles Bridges assaulted a woman in front of his child, and that's not a cardinal sin, and he's still playing in the league. So I want to start off by addressing that. I want to say, yeah, no fucking shit. Miles Bridges' situation is worse in humanity. However, as we start to apply these to sports concepts, the gambling issue is actually, in my opinion, the bigger issue for the integrity of the league and for this to continue. The reason why we have such role models in society, these people have political influence, these people have platforms for social change, these people can sell a gazillion products. The reason why we have that is because we are all interested in the game, invested in these stories, and like the product on the court. Without that, all else collapse. If there is rampant gambling problems through the league, no one's fucking betting on it anymore. No one's fucking watching those games. We don't know who Miles Bridges is, and the bad situations don't even come to light and get exposed for corrected justice. So let's hold the phone. And my first reaction, and I'll kick it over to Drew, was this is the cardinal sin. This is the lifetime ban. This is the thing where it is irreprehensible to come back from when some of those other criminal issues, I kind of do understand giving people a second chance. What were your thoughts when you heard this story come out?
First and foremost, I was a little worried about how exactly Jontay went about doing this. And so the deeper I dived into it, the more I was like, the details that were released over the last couple of days weren't that damning. In my opinion, I thought so he operated a sports betting account, and I think he was in the G League at the time, but he wasn't on a two-way. And whether he was gambling on himself, his own games, or just games that he wasn't a part of, was never released, or at least not in anything I read. So to me, it just was like, okay, this guy was probably breaking the rules a little bit here and there, but probably not to the extent that was originally reported. And then the hammer came down, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess he must have been. And then they released the details of the $80,000 parlay that should have paid $1 million. And yeah, it's at that point, it's pretty damning. Right.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of it was that his personal account had like over $1 million in wages, over 1,000 bets, and that there was nothing bet on NBA, or I think even college basketball was in that report too. I don't think there was any basketball bets, but there were other bets that came in on his prop. So it seems like he was tipping off people, or he was getting
Yeah.
paid off to do certain things
Yeah.
by gambling mafiosos, or whoever you're going to call those, the mobsters that are able to attack these lines. Mike, when you saw, maybe I'll give my take first and ask for your reaction. When
Okay.
I saw everyone freaking out, going, no one could ever bet $80,000 with DraftKings. Like, of course that got denied and whatever. Like, you have to be some dumb idiot to have limits that are that high with DraftKings. My gut reaction was, again, to be like counter to the public narrative about this. There are definitely VIP accounts that exist in which players who play high limits can work with VIP reps who work for these books and be able to place these large bets. I kind of think in a normal situation, DraftKings won't mind people betting $80,000 parlays because that's good for DraftKings, unless you have an inside scoop. So maybe in the future, they limit the ability to bet $80,000 on a single player's combined props. Because then you have to do multiple players, games, and situations, and bring in other things that would be a little bit tougher to game than what Dante did. But my gut reaction was like, one, of course, there are accounts that can bet $80,000 because there are VIP reps. DraftKings has a hotel in St. Louis. If you spend money with their hotel, if you send family members to stay with them, if you have a VIP rep, and you could apply this to Caesars, Bet Rivers, Bet MGM, like all of these casinos, you can bet some big fucking dollars if you game the system in other ways. So I actually wasn't too surprised to see that it was an $80,000 bet. What was your thoughts on that?
No, I agree, Mike. And the rules are not the same for, me, you, Drew versus somebody else, whoever. The bottom line is there's tons of these VIP accounts. The people arguably are vetted, arguably not. We don't really know the details, but if you show a history of high action and basically showing them square mentalities of favorites and this and that, you will be afforded a host. You will be afforded way bigger limits than a regular person will be afforded, and thus, a rich hanger-on of an athlete, a brother, a sister, a friend, someone from the neighborhood, someone from whoever, with that information could certainly put it to use. And shame on DraftKings and these other places for not having things in place to where, hey, why is this person trying to put down 80,000 on such an obscure parlay? That should be looked at and really just, obviously, like you were saying at the top, you can't equate it to regular issues that are worse, like i.e. hitting somebody or assault. In the terms of basketball, though, this is complete purgatory because without integrity, what do you have? You have professional wrestling, and
Right.
they're in bed with gambling companies, sponsors, TV partners, and
Not only do the
so
gambling partners go away, but so does Red Bull and Coca-Cola and Coors Light and all these other things if
exactly,
there's no
yeah,
eyeballs on it. So this is an absolute snowball effect. I want to say they did block that $80,000 bet, but the only
okay,
reason that happened, guys, is because they also got in January, and we don't have the reports of what exact bets come from that January game where he first claimed the eye injury and he was poked in the eye the previous game, and then he got we don't know what was accepted or rejected for that game yet. We are probably T-minus 3 months from a documentary coming out about this or a huge expose. So maybe the three of us will get back together and do a little like report of what we learned, what we saw, and what we can update. That would be kind of fun. But Jonte Porter, Drew, Shohei Ohtani, Jonte Porter, Ted Williams, Tim Donaghy, What's the worst one? What
Donaghy.
goes down? It's still
It's
Donaghy.
Donaghy. Yeah, it's still
Agreed.
Donaghy.
Agreed.
Like the second a ref is like somebody who's not even playing the game but has control over the game in an indirect sort of, well, actually in kind of a direct, but more indirectly than a player, I would say. Anytime that gets involved, it's just bad news all around for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why the NBA dealt with it the way they did at the time. Stern came down with the hammer. He went to jail. Like charges were laid, et cetera, et cetera. I'll be interested to see if charges are laid on Porter here afterwards. Like, is there any legal recourse for doing something like this, or is there just no precedent for it yet?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. A lot more to come with this story, but a lifetime ban for Jontay Porter. It'll be interesting to see how it spills over to Michael Porter Jr., who's like on the Denver Nuggets going for a championship run. Like, how much does he get backlash, internalize some of that pressure, affect his performance? What does it mean down the road for a guy like him, too? I'm not indicating that he's involved, but the fallout of the family issue is certainly going to be there. We saw last playoffs, sadly, Mike Budenholzer's brother passed away in a car accident between one of the games, and the Bucks coaching schemes were a wreck for the rest of the matchup against the Heat. So those things, off-court issues, do happen.
The worst part is this is the second brother who is just completely screwed for Porter, because his other brother is in jail currently for vehicular manslaughter on a DUI charge.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that was
like this. But I was literally just perusing NBA Reddit today, and I saw a comment on that and looked it up, and it's true. He was convicted in 2023 last year, serving 8 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
prayers out to that family, for real.
Yeah.
You don't
That's
wish
a
any
rough
of those
go.
circumstances on anybody, but you know, if you hopefully get yourself out of trouble once you can get yourself in it, use it as a good experience. Right now, the Atlanta Hawks down 63-68 against the Chicago Bulls. My Bulls -3 looking good. I was able to play back some Atlanta Hawks +9.5, and I have the over 220. This all looks beautiful right now as we head to halftime. Fellas, let's transition and start talking about the NBA and what is to come. Tomorrow night, we have a Sacramento Kings at New Orleans Pelicans, where Zion is now ruled out with the hamstring issue. Do you guys really, I have nothing on this. Do you guys have any firm takes or any thoughts that you want to share?
I don't have very much either. I did have a few observations. Just super impressed by Sacramento last night. Obviously, just Keegan Murray playing like that makes them very tough to beat. And De'Aaron Fox getting to the rim like that. New Orleans obviously was playing decent. Once Zion went down, they made a run, but they just don't have enough horses on offense without him. You don't know what you're going to get from Ingram. Second game back, who was down a little bit last night. I would lean to the Pelicans to get it done at home. Arguably a better coach this year, too, although Brown has the pedigree, but agree with you guys, would probably pass.
Yeah, Drew, any action on this game? Are you even going to be watching this game, looking for something live? When you have nothing going into a game, do you then say, I want to watch it and see if I could see an angle that I want to play into? Or do you take the night off and say, what a luxury that normally we work 7 days a week during the NBA season and we get a fucking night off tomorrow?
So a couple of points on this one. One, I picked up the Pelicans early, or when the line was first released, on the assumption that the Zion injury didn't look that bad. And then, as soon as the news came out, I got off all of my positions that I could. I still have a unit and a half stuck on the Pelicans -1.5, which isn't that bad of a bet still, I don't think. Like Mike said earlier, I would probably lean Pelicans at home here. Couple of things I like for the Pelicans are their size and their perimeter defense against Fox. I don't think Fox and Murray are going to get the same kind of penetration that they were able to get against Golden State last night. Specifically, we all saw how Clay played, and it was a tough watch, especially if you're a guy like that, and especially because it's purely injury related. Like, we all know that man could ball and had proven it time and time again throughout plenty of deep playoff runs, 4 rings, et cetera, right? Like, it's just tragic to see at this point.
Yeah, he had a few. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, a few of
No,
those
go.
looks were just so open, and
Yeah.
to see Thompson missing wide open look after wide open look when they had cut it to 11 or 12, and like 1-3 would have made them right in the game, and he just could not make one to save himself. And
Did you
Yeah.
guys see him walk off the court at the end?
Yes, I said, like, look around, take it in.
He was walking through the tunnel, and then he turns around, and then like he clearly has like a reflective soak it all in, take a few deep breaths. A few people
makes you
came
think
over,
it's,
like
he
support
knows
him a
it's
little
his
bit.
last game.
Yeah,
he
and then
knows it's his last game.
And then Steph in the post presser goes fucking cryptic LeBron and says, I just want to win whatever it takes. When they ask him, like, do you still think you can win with these guys? Do you want to bring back this group? And he's just like, I just want to win. Obviously, Steve Kerr would come in and say, we want to bring back Clay and Chris Paul, but we'll see what happens.
I don't think either of those guys comes back.
Wow.
Honestly, I think a couple of things are gonna be in play here. One is the CBA and those owners after this run trying to get out of the tax, especially if you're going to be taxing yourself for 30. How old is Chris Paul now? He's going to be 37 next year. Or is he 38 next year? One of those two, right?
I think it's 38.
Yeah.
Chris Paul would have to sign a MLE deal, and Klay Thompson would have to sign a Grayson Allen 18, 17 and a half type of deal. And none of them ain't getting no 30s, no 25s, no 28s even. Like Draymond, I think, got reduced from 28 to 25 per and got the 4 for 100 or something. That shit's not happening for Klay. It's 2 for 35.
Yeah, maybe
3 for 56.
That'll get beat by a team who's willing to take a chance on him. Like,
I have
just Will.
Orlando. Yeah, I've seen him rumored to go to Orlando being one, and I've maybe Washington. I know Orlando is the one I saw. Same, yeah.
If the Washington fucking Lizards bring in Klay Thompson, it would be, what the fuck are they doing? I do think we could talk about it coming around to the Magic in a little bit. I have nothing on Pelicans Kings either. I will be going to get sushi with one of my homies tomorrow afternoon, and I will be not watching that game, and I will be not putting any action on it. And in that situation, I was just like, I want a night off, and so I will take no action. Well, I have nothing to look back to play back. Drew, on the other hand, is going to look to watch the game live to play off of a current ticket that he has. Mike will be watching the game to see if he could see something that he wants to play into, and then see if he could, flip money lines against each other with live runs. So there are very different approaches from 3 professional gamblers as we all go into a game where we kind of have no real positions that we feel too strongly about. Let's go to the weekend. Obviously, we don't know the results of Bulls-Hawks. Bulls are now up 6 at halftime against the Hawks. They would have to play against the Miami Heat. We don't have to go over a fake game that we don't have any odds for. We don't even know what the fucking matchup is. So let's go to some of the Saturday games. It starts with Orlando Magic at the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'll throw it to either of you. Any strong feelings about this game, this series, anything for it?
Go ahead, Mike. You have the stronger opinion here.
I would have liked Orlando in some situations, but I just their backcourt is, I don't like their backcourt matchup here against Garland and Mitchell, a motivated Mitchell, and Cleveland having the bigs to neutralize Wagner and Banchero a little bit. I don't like when a lesser team is playing a quote better team that plays the same style as them but a little bit better, which would make me like Cleveland here in probably could see it going 7. I could see it probably a 6-game series. Orlando's definitely, their defense is tough. I believe the team split the season series. One of the games, Cleveland, there were some outlier stats in one of the games. The other Wagner on Orlando had a ridiculous game that I don't see being repeated, and they went like 15 from 36 from 3 and won by like 7 points or something. I know you can't put too much stock in the regular season. The playoffs are different. I understand that. But I think Cleveland matches up pretty well against them. And the wager I had with that was, instead of laying the $1.90 or whatever on the money line, I think that's a little rich before the series. FanDuel has a Cleveland to win game 1 / Cleveland to win the series at -115.
Ooh.
So there's a way. There's a way, because if Cleveland doesn't win game 1, I feel like if they're going to win the series, it's going to be, they're going to come out with a good game 1. And then, whether Orlando win games 2 or not, it could go deeper. But if Cleveland does not win game 1, then I'd rather lay the $1.15 there than lay the 190. But curious, you might have a
Mike,
different take.
let me flip that back to you and ask you something. I saw Cleveland -1.5 for the series, like to win in 6, 5, or 4.
That's another good option. Yeah.
And it was +115. Would you rather a +115 on a -1.5 series spread, or would you rather the combo option of game plus series? Because obviously with game plus series, you could win first game and then still win the bet in a 7-game series. So it is a bit different of a context. Similar, but different.
Yeah. In general, I like those series bets you mentioned, Mike, but in this case, I'd probably stick with the one that I said, just because they have home court. They're somewhat evenly matched. I could see a 7-game series and wouldn't want to lose on it going to 7 when you still have the winner, but there might be some other series we talk about later that could apply to.
Drew, do you have any strong opinions on this series?
I am of the opposite opinion, actually. I kind of like the Magic here. I think their guards actually match up fairly well against, specifically Garland. I don't see... I see Suggs giving him a lot of trouble. I see, Mitchell has been hit and miss for 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. Certainly the last sort of month. He's had some injury issues and whatnot as well. Obviously, they're on a lot. Both teams are on a lot of rest at this point. They get almost a full week off, if not a whole week. I don't know what it is, but I've just got this feeling about the Magic. I've liked the way they've been playing down the stretch. Their swarming defense has just been the difference maker in so many games. And I could see that being too much for Cleveland, and Cleveland just having those mental woes that they've had throughout the season, especially when they're healthy, which is weird. Like, Cleveland was a better team when it was Garland and Allen and, Mitchell sprinkled in here and there. But honestly, they haven't looked like they fit together with their starting 5, whereas the Magic just do. So I'm really interested in seeing how this game 1 goes. I'm not putting anything anywhere on this series until I see that game. But I could see the Magic stealing game 1 just kind of on an effort factor alone. You know what I mean?
I personally feel strongly for Cavaliers. I think this is it's actually one of the, I'm going to explain this in 2 contexts. One, in my thoughts versus seemingly public consensus and that in opinion, and then my thoughts from seemingly consensus in a market. I think there's a lot of faith in this Magic team that I personally don't have. I think they're going to really lack the scoring, and they're going to throw Mobley on Paolo, and he's going to give him fits. And I really think Orlando might have very limited options besides forcing Paolo and see if Franz can hit a fucking shot, because he's dipped below 20% on 3-pointers. It's been dreadful as of late for Franz Wagner. So, and then I look on the Cleveland side and I'm like, they've kind of shored up some of my concerns from playoff basketball standpoint. You bring in Max Strus, who's a 3-and-D player, Karis LeVert playing a lot better, Bang Bang Niang, rebounder and floor spacer on offense. So I think they've added some of the pieces that they were badly missing last playoffs when they got shellacked by the Knicks. And then I think they hear all this shit. They know everyone's calling the Cavaliers the softest team in the NBA for ducking the seeding, and then they're calling the Knicks tough for going and get that seeding. Well, I just feel like the Knicks are going to come out playing tough because we called them tough, and the Cavaliers are going to come out playing tough because we called them weak. It's like kind of works both ways. No matter what narrative you give these athletes, they'll spin it into some motivation for themselves and come out playing well. So I think the Cavs come out playing really hard. But then I go to the pricing, and I'm like, the movement is towards the under here. I grabbed a small under 207.5. It's at 206.5 now. I can't really play, like Mike said, paying 2-1, $1.90 for a money line. Like, it just feels too priced. It's series or individual game to play that on a money line. And then the minus 4.5 spread feels perfectly priced for a game where there might be low scoring, tough offense, and the team that I trust, like, I don't know if they're going to win by 5, 6, 7. I trust them to win. I trust them to win the series. I even looked at their odds to sweep the series, and it was only 7-1. And I was like, that's unplayable. I wanted 11-1, 12-1, 13-1 type of situation. So I kind of came to a place where I said, I like the Cavaliers, but I got nothing to play it. I even have a Cavaliers disgusting ticket. I have a Cavaliers NBA title ticket from last year at 25-1. Rarely do you get to the NBA playoffs where the team is actually healthy. They're active. We'll see how healthy they are. The team is
I'll give you sorry. I was going to say I'll give you one player prop to look, a couple player props to look for before we wrap up that game would be Strus and Merrill 3-pointers when they're at home. Both those guys shoot pretty well, and you might want to look at Gary in terms of just wins and losses. Gary Harris and Jonathan Isaac, how they're playing at home versus road. But definitely the Cavs guys 3-pointers when they're at home over.
Yeah, we'll see. Also, if they pull Mobley for some of the awkward fits and they keep more shooting out there because they only need one rim protector in Jared Allen, that'd be very interesting. Drew, I'm going to send it to you. Let's leave this game alone. Do you have any game one bets for anything else that you feel particularly strongly about? I thought the board came out very well priced pretty much throughout.
Yeah, that's
totals,
honestly
lines, series, props, anything you want to give out that feels relatively good value.
Good value is if that's the keyword, then no.
I want to cut you off right there. I want to say something to the audience. That's really good advice. Well, I said at the beginning of last podcast that you might want to reduce your bet size in the playoffs because these markets are sharper. These games we know like how to price them because we have 82 games of sample size data. And then we're going to have series formats where we're going to have consensus sharp markets for each game. You're not going to get tons of CLV. You get more kind of juice out of the squeeze by looking at a live market and trying to watch and look for runs. So Drew's saying, I got really nothing for you across like the 6 game ones that are priced now is genuinely good advice from someone who's a professional bettor and doesn't host their own podcast or tweet things for likes or do any of that other shit that you might see lock of the day, whale play of the day, any of that shit. So honestly, I think it's great advice. Mike, do you have any other thing for game ones that you feel strongly about?
I'm pretty much in agreement with Drew. It is pretty thin, and you highlighted the reasons there. Just there's been so many matchups of all these teams all year, 4 apiece with Phoenix and Minnesota, etc. More of the wait and see approach also. The lines are very efficient right now. The one angle that I'm kind of looking at would be the Milwaukee-Indiana game.
Milwaukee Bucks +1. Are we doing it?
Yeah. Well, I would take a stab on that, and I think there's going to be a lot of runs back and forth. But I think Milwaukee's going to get off to a good start. Might even look for Milwaukee first quarter there. I think without Giannis at home, a lot to prove. Indiana's faulty defense. They haven't been in the playoffs a lot. I think it might take them a little time to get going. So I kind of like a first quarter Bucks there. I won't argue. I like them for the game, but I think it's going to be a very close game, obviously, as the spread indicates. I think I like the first quarter better there, or some combination of starting out with the Bucks position with the intention of grabbing Indiana plus some points if, the Bucks go up by 8 or 10 early, and then you have a pretty good thing working there.
Drew, how do you feel about Bucks +1?
Sure. Well, that's how I feel. I really, that was the one series that caught my eye that I was like, no, I'm watching that before I make any decisions about how that's going to go, because we've seen Milwaukee without Giannis against teams that like to push the pace actually keep pace in a lot of situations, especially at home. And so I'm just really interested to see how these two teams match up without Giannis, and I'll be looking to either make some live plays or just look at game 2. The one thing I will say that I'm kind of looking at right now, and I'll be interested if Mike agrees with me, I wouldn't mind picking up the Pascal Siakam over, as if there's a guy on Indiana who's going to get some looks, and is probably not going to be doubled, so he will actually look to get to the rim in his one-on-one matchup fairly consistently. And he also has a ton of playoff experience. Like, if there's a guy on that team who knows what he's doing in the playoffs and is not scared of the moment, it'll be Pascal. So he's currently at over 22.5, minus 102 on FanDuel. I don't know. I'm sure there might be some different lines other places. But I wouldn't mind picking up that for half a unit or something like that, just to keep myself a little more interested in the game.
Yeah, I could see him definitely as their main threat. I mean, you have Halliburton, but he also looks to be a distributor a lot. So that leaves, Pascal should get to the basket. I think, and he's had the playoff experience, as you said, with Toronto, great results.
Yeah.
I think that's a solid look there as well.
Yeah, he's also playing for a coach that used to feed the ball to a 4-man in the playoffs and say, go to work, Dirk. I actually think that the Halliburton-Siakam combo is kind of like a modern day version of Dirk and Nash for Carlisle. Like, it's a run and gun, pace to space, don't pick up your dribble type of situation.
I mean, Dirk's considerably better than Pascal. And
Nash is considerably better than Halliburton.
Yeah. I would love to see Halliburton just ball out this playoffs. I really would.
Me too. He's a joy to watch.
He is a joy to watch, and when he's on his game, it's just everything of, like, as a basketball purist, somebody who just likes the fundamentals and whatnot, that guy's got them all down pat.
I'm going to look at some. What do we have? We have Knicks 76ers that came out. This line seems like it's going to stick right around the 3. Came out FanDuel +3. DraftKings brought it up at 2. FanDuel moved to 2.5. Now they're back to 3. It is pretty much a consensus market between this 2.5 and 3. Another playoff game where we have a lot of evidence leading up to it. We get a pretty flat market relative to pretty insignificant numbers. And there's probably no clear value to be obtained. I grabbed the 76ers +3 and a tiny bit on the money line. Generally, in those situations, if I'm split and I want to get some action, I lean towards grab the dog, because then you could find easier positions to work off when there's an inevitable close game near halftime or small run from the underdog team to flip it to the other side. Is there any other sports, like you guys, Mike, I know you cover baseball and things. Is there literally anything else that's worth giving out? I have an NFL draft bet that's worth giving out.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's all the rage next week. I was even looking at the RBC Heritage and golf. piggybacking a few people I respect, saying that you might want to look at matchups against Rory McIlroy, that he doesn't really play well here, and was a little sour after Augusta. He also has some live distractions, so a little bit off the beaten path, but a tournament matchup against Rory McIlroy, if you could find with a few different guys. I wouldn't take Scheffler because of possibly leaving with his wife being pregnant, but you could find anyone else against Rory McIlroy plus money. I don't think that's bad. Baseball-wise, small card tomorrow. Game to keep an eye on as a fan would be Jack Leiter making his debut for Texas Rangers, son of Al Leiter, great pitcher. Jack's supposed to be really good. It's an afternoon game for all the people at work would want something to watch, or degenerates in the afternoon. It's a good game to keep an eye on, see how the pitchers are doing, and you could either jump an in-game, you could use it for a future game, but a Texas-Detroit game, good to keep an eye on, and anti-McElroy at the RBC.
I'm going to give out Jaden Daniels to be the second pick in the NFL draft. This is forming to be the consensus. It is minus 300 at FanDuel. I am going to have an NFL draft expert on the podcast next week to give out a lot of things, but considering the way these odds move, I think JD minus 300 is worth grabbing now. We had Adam Schefter go on a Commanders podcast, and the audio kind of leaked and was aggregated of him saying you could go buy your Jaden McDaniels jerseys. And then we had Peter Schrager release his mock draft, in which he also confirmed that Jaden Daniels was the second overall pick on his board. Schrager had a perfect mock draft last year. He also has the number one track record of any insider who submits their mock drafts of the last 5 years. So when I look for sources in an NFL draft place, Schrags and Shefty are the first place that I go. I like the fact that they are insiders and that they are not talent evaluators and pundits. They are not trying to watch tape and then give you their opinion on who should be picked. They are speaking to team representatives that they've developed relationships with and reporting on news. And generally, the guys like Schrags and Shefty aren't the people that you use smoke screens through, right? Those people have built up the highest amount of trust. That's like Woj and Shams tweeting in the NBA. I think that wraps up today's episode. I kind of even feel bad because we gave out nothing that amazing, and we kind of just covered that Jonte Porter's an asshole. He deserves a lifetime ban. That the NBA playoffs are thin for betting. Maybe you look towards live stuff. Maybe we watch these series play out and we come back with stronger opinions, and then go look toward the RBC Classic like Mike suggested and fade Rory McIlroy, or check out the NFL draft and place some money on Jaden Daniels to be the third overall pick. Drew, do you have any parting thoughts before we get out of here? I want to give you a chance if you have anything.
Just that, in my experience, when it comes to betting, specifically the NBA playoffs, this comes back to a concept in poker that we talked about the first time you had me on, where it was theory versus reads. And I think the playoffs is much more about reads than it is about theory. That'd be my final thought.
Ooh, I want to tack on to something about that because now you gave me a little good insider.
Sure.
One way to confirm your read when you're watching an NBA playoff game, because the NBA playoffs is when we get a lot of adjustments. So a little tip and a little secret trick for someone who made it 40 minutes in to this episode and is a true fan listening till the end. Go look up a team's rotation and then notice if a player is like, if your read starts to actually take hold that's different from the rotational assignments, then you're like, wow, I'm actually catching on to a trend of something that's happening in terms of playing time, and that's bettable. So for instance, today with the Heat and 76ers, Jimmy Butler went down bad at the end of the first quarter. I was texting with a buddy during this, while this was happening, figuring out if we were going to bet the 76ers at this time. I went and looked up the Miami Heat's rotation. I saw, Jimmy Butler always starts the second quarter. Let me wait till we get back from commercial break And if Jimmy Butler is out and he is missing some of his normal rotations, I will fire on the 76ers. And if not, I will hold off on making a move on this read. That is how you get confirmation on your read. We get through the commercial break. We come back. Spoelstra says Jimmy's going to try and tough it out. And Jimmy's on the court for his normal rotation. And I threw that shit out. We're going to look. So I looked at Buddy Hield's. I was live watching Buddy Hield's prop because Miami was playing zone tonight. And I was like, damn, they need Hield to catch and shoot and put some pressure on this defense. That was my read. I looked up the prop prices. I looked up Buddy Hield's rotations. And I thought, you know what? I don't think he's going to get the requisite minutes to reach this prop anymore in this game. And then guess what? The motherfucker was put in 3 minutes earlier than he normally does, and he cashed the over on his points prop. So you could start to correlate some NBA rotations in how they are in the regular season because we have a lot of data for it, and then watch the NBA playoffs, see if you see something funky and read it, and then act on it. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Mike and Drew, thank you for your time. The three of us will be back next week, once a week through the NBA playoffs. I hope these episodes aren't just don't bet anything and we are able to give out some good stuff. Thank you to all. Peace out.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.